Good morning, St. Louis, and welcome into the Randy Carricker Show featuring Brooke Grimsley. Unfortunately, we're batting 0 for 2 on that side of things. Mike Claiborne joins myself, Matthew Rocchio, here for the show today on STL Sports Central, brought to you, of course, by our friends at DraftKings Sportsbook, where the crown is yours. We'll tell you plenty about their upcoming launch of their DraftKings app coming up on December 1st. If you are a Missouri resident, get in right now, download that app, use code STL Sports, and you'll find out all the great things that are coming up on DraftKings a little bit later on in the show. But we do have Mike Claiborne with us today. Claibs, how you doing today?
I'm doing well. Came off a road trip. We got one. Yeah, and you know what's interesting? Had we won 2 games on this road trip, along with the one we won yesterday, we probably would be a game out of a wild card spot.
Yeah, in fact,
that's really kind of scary, right?
I saw a great tweet like this, and I want to give credit to at Quinn STL Cards. If the Cardinals had won every game where they held a multi-run lead in the past week, they'd be tied for a playoff spot.
It's amazing, man. But you know, when you have a 500 team, you know you have those highs and lows, and that comes with it. And you know, as good as you play one night, you won't play as well the next night. And I felt we were going to win yesterday because we lost to a tough game the night before, where your bullpen wasn't as sharp as they normally are. So I felt like this is the day, and I was happy for Riley O'Brien because he didn't have his good stuff on Saturday, but yesterday he had it, and he was able to get the save.
Does it ever surprise you in all your years of doing this that sports always find a way to give us the storyline? Like things always find a weird way to like. It seems to be there. It happens too often to be called coincidence at this point. The storyline always happens.
You are who you are.
There you go.
I mean, it's plain and simple. And sometimes you're short and it shows. And then there's sometimes you dominate the opposition because you're better that particular day. But some people call it luck. I just say when you play 162, you are who you are.
There you go.
Yeah.
But things always come around, and I can't get over the fact that everything on Saturday seemed to turn when Eric Fetty comes in for the Brewers and gets the Cardinals down 1-2-3.
Here we go. And
I couldn't believe it.
I was, at that point you said, you know, this may not end well. But it was, I just, you know, when you see him, and, you know, Eric Fetty, he did everything he could. I mean, remember, he had some pretty good outings earlier this season. Something went wrong, and it was just target practice. Cardinals let him go. Atlanta picks him up. Then they let him go after a start or two, and Milwaukee just puts him in the bullpen. And, you know, a guy like that in the pen, who knows? I mean, you're looking for experience at this time of the year, so he could be that guy for them. But, you know, Milwaukee's a good, you know, last 2 teams we faced in Seattle, I think Seattle might be as good as anyone right now. And Milwaukee has a way of putting the pressure on you. Now, what they look like on the road, that'll be another story. They don't have a lot of swing and miss pitching. They don't have a dominant guy, but they don't give it up. So, you know, they don't beat themselves. So it'll be a fun run down the stretch.
Should be. Samuel Howe comes in. Fetty might get a ring before NATO. That would just be the world's a cruel place.
Yeah,
yes.
Right.
Sports are not fair is the bottom line there. We will be talking about plenty of football. High Definition says so much football to talk about. Of course, the Missouri Tigers with a big win over Louisiana. Unfortunately, South Carolina, when we talk about narratives and storylines, they did not do their part as Diego Pavia keeps on backing up his trash talk as Vanderbilt was all over South Carolina. Lenore Sellers took a head injury, and based on the line from our good friends at DraftKings right now, it looks like he's not expected to play this next week. So we got a lot of football to talk about. But while I have Mike Claiborne here, there are some baseball things I still want to get into.
All right, let's do it.
And the big thing here, this entire season, the Cardinals have talked about runway. We've heard it a lot.
Yeah.
But, you know, a table-setting season for next year, for the next era and those kind of things. So the big question has been, are we learning about these players? And have we learned enough about a player to know what their role is, to know who they are as a Major League Baseball player, or are there still question marks? And that's kind of my big question, or that's kind of my takeaway from this season is, did we learn enough about a player to know going into this next era what he can be in the team building?
I think we had enough of a sample size.
Yeah.
Now, the results may not be what you want, and the results may continue on with regard to what next season looks like. You know, if there's one element that you have to feel good about is you have 4 guys in your bullpen that have really done a nice job. You look at JoJo, Ryan O'Brien, Matt Swanson, and Kyle Leahy. Those 4 guys probably have an impact on what we're going to do next year. Now, the challenge that I see with every team, when you have your bullpen, You can't use them every day, the same guys every day.
Mm-hmm.
So you got to have a 1 and a 1A group. The Cardinals are still trying to figure out what that 1A group looks like, because they're going to need somebody if JoJo goes 2 days in a row and O'Brien goes 2 days in a row, or Swanson goes 2 innings. You're not going to use him the next day. So you have to make sure you have some other guys who can take on that role. Now, we've seen Alcala. He was pretty good yesterday. Mm-hmm. Chris Roycroft, we don't know what he is. I mean, he's got the physical tools, but it's not applicable to what you need right now from him in the bullpen. And then you have some other guys that you kind of kick the tires on. Who is Gordon Graceffo?
Yep. Oh, that's a good question. I didn't have him on the list. That's a good question.
I mean, here's a guy who's a former first-round pick,
mm-hmm.
and you're still trying to figure out what he is. And then you have some other guys that we've seen bits and pieces of that may be given a chance to compete in spring training, or you may say, let's move on. There may be some other people out here better. So I think that's the one strong suit. The other element, I would say, Mason Wynn. I think we've seen that Mason Wynn has had a phenomenal year, and I don't think that's a fluke. Keeping him healthy, I think, will be a challenge, and he'll be healthy if there's someone to back him up more. Now, who is that going to be? You look at Brendan Donovan at second base. When healthy, he was pretty good. It slid just a little bit in the second half, but his defense was reasonably sound.
And I think we now know with Donovan that he was dealing with one injury that then snowballed into multiple injuries because he was compensating, which is always something that happens.
He wants to play. He thinks he can help the team. So you like that direction. I thought Wilson Contreras in the first half of the season was as good of a first baseman as it was in the National League. Now, there's been a couple of things that maybe he'd like to have back, but I think you can play with him. I don't think there's a problem with there. Your outfield, Jordan Walker has made himself a better defender.
Mm-hmm.
There were times last year when you would take him out of the game because there was a defensive question.
Mm-hmm.
He leads the team in assists from the outfield. Best throwing arm in the outfield. Made most plays. There have been a couple of adventures, but I think trying to learn a position at the big league level is a challenge for anyone.
Yeah.
Victor Scott, I like what he can do. I like to see him do it more. Victor didn't have a good week defensively where he threw to the wrong base a couple of times. But overall, I think he gives you a chance to win. Left field, I think, is up in the air. I just don't know what left field looks like. Alec Burleson has played a very competent left field. I like what he does. And maybe you can plug him out there every day. But, you have Lars Nootbaar. You don't need 2 left-handed hitting left fielders. Okay, so one of them probably needs to either find another position or be put on another team. Catching, Jimmy Crooks, in a very small view, has been okay. I think he's still trying to figure some things out in the batter's box, but he seems like he has understanding of catching. Pedro Pages had a very good season early, cooled off a little bit. I'm concerned a little bit about the pass balls, and that can come from a lot of things, getting crossed up with your pitcher and things of that nature. But pitchers like throwing to him. Joel Pozo is a great guy coming off the bench. I'm not sure if he does anything that says, he's got to catch 120 games.
Yeah. I
think he's a guy that's a good reserve guy, and he can help this team and he can help somebody else. So those are the areas where, I didn't mention third base. I don't know what third base looks like. I don't.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know whether it's Nolan Gorman, Nolan Arenado still on the ball club. Nolan Arenado is a better defender than Nolan Gorman any day of the week. Okay? And it's amazing how glaring that is when he's not there. When Arenado, Wynn, and Donovan aren't on your infield, you're a whole different team.
Yeah.
Defensively, and it showed. There were some plays that you'd say he'd have made that play or he'd have thrown here, he'd have done that. We didn't see it. And, I think it cost the team some games. Not one individual, just the whole collection of people. And the first thing you can say, the guys that replaced them didn't play a lot, didn't have a lot of big league experience. And this was a time when they were supposed to learn that or get that experience. But I just don't know about third base.
Yeah, that's obviously today is a day to ask those questions. As Henry Wells points out, Nolan Arenado will be in a Cardinal uniform today and the rest of this season and will and should be our starting third baseman for the upcoming 2026 season. Welcome back. 28 still has the birds on the bat. Henry Wells, very excited on this Monday, and I like that we're bringing in his perspective, because I've been a Debbie Downer about Nolan Arenado's return. I've been big on giving Gorman as much of a chance as possible, and obviously the last 2 weeks he hasn't helped himself, as his approach to the plate has really regressed, and all those great walk numbers and lower strikeout numbers have and now those are we have a much larger sample size across this year of him doing that. Yeah. So I'm still being positive, but is there anything to potentially, and I think this gets also to the veteran status of Nolan Arenado and things like that. His splits are actually pretty good against lefties as a right-handed hitter, obviously. And Gorman's obviously one of the lefties you have too many of. So is there any potential of just like a hard platoon next year between these two guys where you just play a lot of left, right?
I don't see it. I think that whoever you plug in over there is going to play every day or play a majority of the time. The other challenge that I think you have is you don't have another third baseman in the organization.
No.
So it would, and one of the things I felt this team needed was competition. You needed guys being pushed.
What about Weatherholt?
Haven't seen enough of him. I'm told he looks okay. The question is, when you look at a guy like that at that position, now we know he can swing the bat, but does he swing enough for power? Or is he a guy for average? There's a lot of things that go into it. Now, if you have some more thump in some other positions, yeah, maybe I plug him in over there.
Yeah.
But you don't have it. You don't have enough slug anywhere else. And that would be a concern. But we're saying this today because when spring training rolls around and the new regime has had a chance to meet and talk and address some issues, this may have a whole new look.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm of the belief that people that we're talking about now won't be here.
Mm-hmm.
I think, there's some that you've seen enough of to say can't help us, but we may be able to get something for them to help us in another position. So I think everything's on the table right now because Chaim Bloom and his regime, they didn't draft any of these guys. They didn't sign any of these guys. So there's no affection or just want to hold on to him because he was one of your guys. So in that case, and it's not that you're trying to go after anybody. You don't like someone. It's just a business decision where we've seen enough of this person to know he can't help us be better as a team. He can be part of the team, but he's not going to be a contributing factor that's going to make us better.
I agree with that one. Guys, you're doing a great job. Jump into the chat. We will get to those throughout the show. We're going to get to a couple of them right now. Make sure also subscribe to our newsletter. Subscribe right now to our YouTube. Like, share, subscribe. Hit the bell button. That way you know whenever we're going live. That's going to be after all events in St. Louis. Cardinals games, Blues games coming up. Right now we got both Illini and Mizzou post games. So that way you hit the bell button and you know whenever a St. Louis event's ending, when's the post game coming, usually 5 or 10 minutes. But the bell button will tell you right there on your phone. You'll get the notification on your YouTube app. Hey, I got to check out another post-game show from STL Sports Central. Let's Turn To was one of multiple texters who had thoughts along these sides. Record aside, we were told this season was quote-unquote runway with Gorman and Walker as the two main names. Do we know anything more about Walker than we did in March? As for Gorman, half say trade, half say keep. So the Walker is such a tricky situation because he is only 23. And so I think there's a mindset not just from maybe inside the organization, even though it is a guy who didn't draft him now who's going to be making the decision, but also from the fans of, do you want to just throw in the towel on a 23-year-old?
I also think you can throw in one on a guy who doesn't have enough reps.
Yep.
Okay. You look at his minor league numbers. He didn't have as many at-bats. I think the transition position-wise was a little bit of a challenge. You look at him, you said, there's got to be power there. I mean, he runs the bases well. He does everything better than he did last year. Mm-hmm. My thought, we kind of threw this around this week, I don't think going to winter ball would be a bad idea.
Interesting. Okay.
I mean, because all these guys in the cage all winter, okay? Yeah. They're doing all the little drills, and you need to see pitching. You need to see competition. You need to see where a lot of guys still go and work on their game. And that doesn't mean you're going to, buy a house there. You go down there for a couple, 3 weeks, get a feel for what you saw. And you don't really even need to have people from the organization. Get uncomfortable. Put yourself in an uncomfortable environment. And how do you respond to it? Nobody's going to hold your hand. You can have somebody track what you're doing and get a feel for your swing. But I think for me, that would be a suggestion. Because when you look at everything else, I mean, how many more hours do you want him in the cage?
Yeah.
With the same result. I mean, and he can work on his defense. You know, you can do that anytime, especially at the complex down in Florida. But I really feel like he needs to see more pitching and approach, because when he swings early, he's in pretty good shape. Man, that 2-strike count is like, here we go.
Yeah,
here comes a slider.
Yep.
Here's something low in the zone, and then you start guessing. So I just feel like in his case, now it's not for everybody, but at 23, to have a chance to go somewhere and again, be uncomfortable with the environment. You know, you don't have a lot of people that know are going to be around you, so you have to figure some things out. And I think if you learn how to figure those things out, being in the batter's box could be a little easier for you.
Also, to that point, you mentioned Florida, and Randy was making a very similar point about Walker this winter. Is there any restriction because of the construction down in Florida on the availability of like the facilities down there?
Oh, they have fields. Yeah, they have a field down there.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, you know, I don't know where they're at clubhouse wise or anything like that, but if that's the case, changing the car.
There you go. He also mentioned Nolan Gorman. We just talked about him. My thing with him has been, for a guy who's, again, only 25, and we've seen players adjust their game at that point, the adjustments he made across June, July, and August at the plate for me were enough to say you give him this winter and into spring training, and if he can take but the combination of the new approach with the power he knows he has and find that middle ground where it's I'm looking for new things, but I am taking the swings, the cuts when I should be. There was enough for me to say he's at least developing as a hitter, and he's showing that the work can pay off. He can develop as a hitter. That's why I was big on him having as much time as possible. And clearly, as soon as he had a little time, he figured out and was like, oh, I'm a natural third baseman. I know what to do at this position. He figured out defensively, but then he started striking out too much. What have you seen from those adjustments at the plate, and has that given you any hope about his ability to become a professional hitter in the future?
The jury is out.
Yeah.
He might be another guy that might want to get uncomfortable. Go play winter ball. Do something for 2 or 3 weeks. I think conditioning is also an issue here too.
Okay.
Where I didn't think he was as agile as we've seen him in the past. And, you know, he may feel differently about it, his body, but I just felt like there was some plays that I think he would like to have back. Had he handled them a little differently. But, you know, we have some players in the game, not just in the Cardinals, that have become very comfortable in the game because they come up early. You know, I'm a big leaguer. Maybe I'll go down for once or twice, but at the end of the day, I'm still a big leaguer. And the problem that the game has, there aren't enough players to push players to create competition. Competition is what makes this game what it is. And I don't see enough of it, especially with the Cardinals. There's not enough. I mean, you think about, as I said earlier, who's a third baseman in waiting? I mean, J.J. Weatherholt was a top draft choice, came up as a shortstop. I think we have that position pretty much filled out.
Yeah.
And then they were saying, well, moving to second. Well, you know, we got Donovan there.
Should be there for a while.
Is he a third base? So, but that's the only infield competition that you have at 3 positions. The catching is going to be a little bit more competitive with Crooks, Pages, and you have the 2 young catchers in the minors that you want to make sure when they get here, they're here to stay. The outfield, we saw Nathan Church. Nathan Church sounded like a good defender, but offensively, he's still trying to figure it out, and he needs more time. And you look at the corners, nobody pushes Jordan Walker. Nobody pushes Lars Newbar. So that's a situation that you have to look at, developing more internal competition. And if that doesn't work, then you go outside the organization. And the same thing goes with pitching. We saw every pitcher that we thought could throw a pitch in the big league. Nick Raquet was the last guy. And as I said to him, I never heard of him in spring training.
Yeah.
Never saw him. He may have been on the backfield. And congratulations to him for him being able to build himself up to get that opportunity. But we don't have those young, fascinating arms, or we don't have the swing and miss arms in the organization yet. And that's something that you have to hope that comes about here sooner than later.
Speaking of the pitching, we've had a season now excuse me, a full season now of Palante, and it's been up and down, obviously. But the big question for me going forward is simply, and people might scoff at this, but for this one stat, he is elite. Can elite ground ball contact numbers get him through 180 innings as a starting pitcher in what Major League Baseball is now, or and also with what the rest of his profile is?
Well, that's the question. What is his profile? The profile has been good ground ball pitcher, but doesn't have a plan B.
Okay.
When things start to unravel, maybe he doesn't have control that he needs, and all of a sudden things start to unravel and it gets ugly quick. So until he develops a plan B or another pitch, I'm not sure if that's going to look any different.
Yeah, and like you said, there's not a lot of bodies, so it's like Palante, does he get a chance? Graceffo, you mentioned earlier, because there's not a lack of bodies, does he get a chance to maybe stretch his arm back out as a starter in spring training?
See, he's another guy who, what does he do well? What pitches does he do well with? And the other thing that comes into play is you have young guys who are trying to drink water out of a fire hose, because this game speeds up on you really quick. And I'm glad to see him get the opportunities now to be able to exhale slower once things start to rush him. We saw that with Chris Roycroft. He has some tools. I don't think anyone will argue that. But man, when this game speeds up, man, it can, you're kind of like, okay, now what do I do now? And I think one of the people who's been able to control his pulse has been Riley O'Brien. Mm-hmm. Riley O'Brien was that guy last year. And now Riley O'Brien is your high leverage guy. So it takes time. It takes opportunities. I think what Ollie and Dusty Blake have done has been a remarkable job in trying to put guys in successful positions compared to just say, go get it. And I think for the most part, it's worked for those who are ascending. And then there's some other guys who are still trying to find out what lane they should be in. But there are opportunities in this bullpen, not to mention starting rotation for next year.
You mentioned that you have Swanson. He's proven that he can be a 2-inning guy. You have Riley O'Brien. He's obviously ramping up to be, an above average setup man, if not a closer in the future. Kyle Leahy, it might be a little bit robbing from Peter to pay Paul, but because you have 3 other dominant relievers, does Leahy get that chance in spring training as a starter?
Good question. I'll go back to your previous statement, dominant relievers. I just think we run across some guys who got a chance to pitch. Mm-hmm. Now, how that shapes out over the course of a season, I don't know, because I'll go back to this. If those are the only 3 or 4 guys you have, then you're going to have problems, because you're going to need some other guys that can come in. You look at Philadelphia, you look at San Diego. They don't have a weak link.
No.
And that's why Philadelphia is good enough without Alvarado to make this a very interesting postseason, because they can go to multiple guys every day. Cardinals can't do that yet. And that's just a sign of growth and development. So, but to your point, the Leahy thing will be intriguing only because we don't have anybody else. Again, no competition. Now, Quinn Matthews will probably be in the hunt. Tink Hence just doesn't have enough innings yet. Liam Doyle is very new. I mean, can he come in and surprise some people? But then after that, Roby is a guy you were counting on, but he's done for this year. So you're going to have to look around and find a couple of, I don't want to say reclamation projects, but something you see in a guy that you think you can tweak and twist and make sure that they can contribute. I think that's what you have to look for also.
One thing that they were talking about in the early in August was potentially piggybacking. And I know there's about Palante, but I thought there was a chance maybe we would see it with Liberatore, because he was also at that innings thing. But they pulled back, and we haven't seen that with either of them.
Well,
why do you think that was?
Bullpen, because now you're short your bullpen.
Okay,
and we're pushing guys to the limit. Like Liberatore's thrown like 55, 60 more innings than he pitched last year. Mm-hmm. So you really want to keep an eye on him. So if he has a flat tire, now you have to go to the bullpen a little earlier, and now you're already short because you're using 2 guys for 1 start. Mm-hmm. So it really kind of puts you in a pickle at this time of the year. I think early in the year, you might be able to do that. But when you hit September, man, guys, and this is what's going to make the postseason interesting. I don't know if any of these teams has enough pitching, because you're now going to ask your starter, who has already thrown more innings than anyone, hey, I'm going to need 4 or 5 starts from you if we're going to win this thing. I'm going to need at least 2 starts per series. So what does that look like? Does that look like 6 hard innings? Does that look like 7? Or does that look like he's just a little bit of a notch better than an opener?
That makes sense. And so does Liberatore and Pilates had a couple solid starts, but obviously he's had a couple blow-ups as well. But is Liberatore then hitting that innings limit, hitting a wall, and now having multiple solid starts afterwards? Is that a big development for the Cardinals, you think?
Yeah, I think it is for this reason. He'd never been in that position before since he's been in the organization. He's always come out of the bullpen. You know, there was one point, hey, make him a closer. No, they decided to let him start. They tried to monitor his innings. And yeah, he has some highs and lows, but I thought there was more improvement. And again, with Liberatore, it's taking just a little bit more time. Once he figures it out and has the endurance and everything else that comes with it and the repertoire, then he could be a very effective pitcher in your rotation. Now, the question is, if you want to slot pitchers, do we have a number 1? No. You have a number 2? Yeah. Not on a good team. And the reason why I say that, a really good team, Sonny's a 3.
Okay.
Isn't that what we're moving for? We want to have a good team, right?
Exactly.
A very good team.
Yeah, you're right.
So you want to have Sonny as a 3.
Okay.
Libby's your 4, and maybe McGreevy's your 5. Hey, McGreevy's my 5th.
That's pretty good.
I think we have a shot. Now, the challenge is finding 1s and 2s and finding how you develop them internally, or do you have to go out on the market? You know, pitching is very expensive. So you have to be careful in how much and how long you invest. And would you like to get a guy with control compared to a guy who's going to walk? I think that's what you're playing with right now.
There it is. We're going to shift over to some football talk, but before we do that, I want to tell everybody about our good friends at DraftKings, where the crown is yours, because you got to get ready, Missouri. The wait is almost over. DraftKings Sportsbook, America's top-rated sportsbook app, is coming soon to the Show Me State, but you can already get your sign up in today. New Missouri customers can get $300 in bonus bets when DraftKings launches on December 1st. Download now and place a $5 bet when they go live. Download DraftKings Sportsbook right now, and it'll bring everything you need to elevate your game day, including live in-game betting, lightning fast payouts, and endless ways to get in on the action, all right from your phone. And when they officially go live in Missouri, you'll be betting with the Sportsbook app trusted by millions. Safe, secure, and has fast money withdrawals. That's what you're looking for in your Sportsbook app. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use code STL Sports right there on your screen to grab $300 in bonus bets with just a $5 bet when DraftKings goes live on December 1st. That's code STL Sports right there on your screen in partnership with DraftKings Sportsbook. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. 21 plus, physically present in Missouri. Eligibility restrictions apply. Bonus bets expire 7 days after issuance. Exclude customers who redeem pre-launch sign-up offer. Terms at sportsbook.draftkings.com/promos. Claibs, we had a...
Don't we say the crown is yours? We still say that?
We still say the crown of DraftKings, where the crown is yours. Right there on the screen, where the crown is yours. We had another fun weekend of football here in America. Of course, the Missouri Tigers with a big win. They ran all over Louisiana as they should. As they should. A lot of people in Missouri are saying, I don't care about the competition. I know this team is good. That's been something I've seen, not just from Missouri honks. There's some college football people who are rolling with that. Claibs, you need to see more. Or or more from different against better competition.
You know, and every school's guilty of this.
Yeah, fair enough.
You know, I mean, I really don't get caught up in the season until we get in like week 3 or 4, because at that point you actually have to play somebody.
Yep.
But I say this, I like the efficiency of what I watched from Missouri. So at least they're running the plays and doing the things they need to do the right way. And you have to develop good habits.
Yes.
I know everybody's all lathered up about South Carolina this week. And South Carolina was a good team until last week.
Yeah, thanks for not doing your job on that one.
Yeah, and then we found out how good they weren't.
Yeah.
So, and now they may be short personnel-wise, so we don't know what to expect. I said this to you earlier, this is going to be an epic college football season because the rankings, in my opinion, mean nothing.
And they should.
You know, Notre Dame is still ranked. They haven't won a game yet.
I like the ranking. I can't keep going on this rant. It's just like, so I don't doing it before week 4 is asinine.
Yeah, I agree. So I could care less about ranking. And it's harder now to monitor teams because of the portal, and so many guys have moved to different programs. And I look at that situation as being more of a challenge to really assess who you are. From a coaching standpoint, if I'm a head coach, I go out and hire me a bunch of junior college coaches because they know how to coach up guys quicker. Because they've been used to having a guy for 1 year, 2 years, and then moves on. College coaches like, well, we're going to be here. We're going to watch you graduate and all that. Man, that doesn't happen anymore. If you're a good player, somebody that pays you more and you move on. So you have to keep things maybe a little bit more simple as far as your offense and your defensive packages are concerned. And you have to have guys who have the aptitude to be able to digest this in a short period of time. The other thing, and I think it's guilty more in the NFL and probably college, the lack of contact in practice, in training camp, catches up to you. And I don't know why that is. I know they say, well, we want to save our kids for the season. Well, this is a better way to get them hurt because they're not in what physical contact shape. And there's a difference. And we see it in the NFL every week. College football, we're seeing it more. So you really don't know what you have until the fourth week. And the other thing, I'm going to get on my soapbox here.
I love a soapbox.
You players, whether you're in college or in the NFL, if you don't have a movement to get this turf off the field and put grass back in, it's your fault when you're having the hip replacements and the knee replacements and the concussions because you've fallen on concrete. And they tell you that the padding is better, the cushion is better. You know, Joe Burrow is done for a while because of a turf toe. I've seen players end their careers with that. And the other issues that come with the turf, players, you are at fault for allowing this to continue to happen. You want to cry about training camp and two-a-day practices and back-to-back. That's crazy, man. Worry about the work conditions that you're involved in because right now this doesn't work. It does not work. And I know they think they're saving money. You know, well, we don't have to cut the grass anymore. But it looks better on TV. I would rather play in a mud bowl and keep players healthy compared to what we're seeing out there now.
That's you know what say what you will about soccer players. They are hard on that one. They refuse.
I don't blame them.
There are some players who because Vancouver in the league has a turf field, and there are some players that just go when we have away games in Vancouver. I'm not on the roster that day. I'm not putting my
cannot do it
physicality, my physical health on the line because these jackwagons are playing with the turf.
I don't get it, and every school's doing it. And what we're going to see, because you see it on a lot of high school fields, we're going to see kids hurt more by the time they get to college. They'll have an injury or two, or they'll develop one that will continue through their college career if they have lucky enough to have one.
That's a really good point. We need to get rid of these turf fields. They're absolutely ridiculous. Can you talked about the early seasons here? We're also seeing some decisions being made. Not Deshaun Watson, my bad. I'm blanking on the name
UCLA
of the UCLA coach who Deshaun Foster, my apologies. Former Carolina Panthers running back. Deshaun Foster fired at UCLA. Virginia Tech's about to jettison their coach as well. This has to be somehow connected to NIL and things like that, right? These early triggers.
I think a couple of things. NIL has something to do with it for sure because you're always trying to raise money. And I think if some coaches don't cover, that'll get you fired too.
That's a good point.
If you don't cover, that can get you run out of there. And you know, the problem that we have now is fans have so much more information to go by on what they think their team should do.
That's a great point.
And because of that, the pressure's on. You throw in the portal, the NIL, you don't even know if you're going to have a guy from week to week. And so there are a lot of things that take place. I'm amused at some of the post-game press conferences. It's amazing how Brian Kelly, who when he first got to LSU, sounded like he was born in the bayou. they gave him the red ass the other day. You saw the Midwest come out of him, man.
Let's see if we can detect any of the accent in Brian Kelly. This is from his press conference just the other day, where he got into it with a reporter provided by that channel as well. Here is Brian Kelly from the postgame presser.
I know you love these immediate postgame sessions, but what are you seeing with your offense?
Stop. Really? Is that the first question? We won the game 20-10. Try another question. What do you want me to tell you? I just laid it out for you. We played the game to win the game. We played the game to win the game.
All right. How about third down then? What is going on with third down?
It's one game. Last game, we were great on third down. You're looking at this from the wrong perspective. LSU won the football game. Won the game. I don't know what you want from me. What do you want? You want us to win 70-0 against Florida to keep you happy?
No, I think people want to know why you can't run the ball, quite honestly.
We can run the ball. Did you see the last play of the game? That's all you need. You just need one. There's a ridiculous questions. And I'm getting tired of it. That football team just worked their tail off to get an SEC win, and you want to know what's wrong. You know what? You're spoiled. You're spoiled. This team is 17-1 at night. 17-1. Give them some respect. How about that? Give them some respect instead of micro-analyzing every little thing. This is ridiculous. For a group of seasoned reporters, that kind of question is so out of line.
Courtesy WBRZ2 Sports in Louisiana.
You know what? I don't blame him. I think that we get to this point, and I'm not the biggest Kelly fan.
Oh, I hate him.
Although wherever he's gone, he's been successful. He put Cincinnati on the map. He
True.
did wonders for Notre Dame, and obviously LSU is moving in a good direction. But I do think that on Saturday, we have people who ask questions, well, why didn't you rush for 300 yards this week? Well,
Okay, so in fairness to the questions, prior to that 51-yard run in the last play that sealed the game, LSU was 18 for 52 yards, which is 2.8 yards per carry. They weren't running the ball well.
Yeah.
DJ Lagway threw 5 interceptions and you won the game by 10 points. You went 4-14 on third down. Those aren't bad questions, in my opinion.
I think the way, those questions probably are the ones you kind of weave in later.
A little bit later on. Yeah, that's
Coach,
fair.
Your offense, your defense did this. Talk about third down, if you will, because that seems like that's been a little bit of a struggle. And at that point, Kelly's answers should be, yeah, we know we've got some things we need to adjust on. We saw some things today we think we can correct for next week, and but we're working at it. It's not something we didn't overlook. If you say that, you're probably good.
And you know what? If this is any other coach, there's a lot more leeway, because for me, my issue with Kelly goes back to his time in Indiana. It goes back to his time in Cincinnati. He has a tendency to not seem to care as much for the people who are below him on the rungs. And I go back to,
from a media standpoint.
I think from a lot of things. I mean, you just go back to the incident in Notre Dame with the video assistant on the scissor lift and things like that. It's just he has an issue, in my opinion, of showing people respect who he maybe doesn't respect their job, or they don't have as much of as high of a clout number as him.
That could be something to be put on the list. But I just think these coaches today have so much going on, and you're constantly talking to the media about the same things. Some handle it better than others. It's who you are. And when you see these guys getting paid $4, $5, $6, $8, $9 million, hey man, that's part of the reasons why you're getting paid for it. It's not that you're blowing a whistle. No. It's not that you have everything to your beckoning call. It's days like Saturday when somebody lights your fuse about something that there's something wrong with it, but you're trying to turn it into a positive and they won't let it go. And, if he wants to be confrontational, that's fine. There's always going to be one writer that will be able to give it back. Okay. And if you want to go back and forth with a guy, that's fine. I mean, I always go back to Mike Gundy.
Yeah.
But we've all seen coaches have the moment like that.
I do like that one. That one makes me laugh.
But, it's part of the business. not a happy part of the business, but it's part of the business. I mean, how many times have we seen Nick Saban light somebody up?
Yeah. I was never a fan of him when he would do it either, because it was
but
sometimes it was a lot of times with that one too, would be like, it was like, that seemed like a pretty legitimate question that you're just saying, like, I'm Nick Saban and I know I can get away with this because I own this entire town.
I think some coaches will come back to that reporter because of the heat of the moment and give them. I've seen that.
That's a good
before.
point. That's a really good point.
So it doesn't look good on the surface to some. Sometimes I think some of the guys deserve it.
There's no doubt about that.
I think sometimes coaches have to be a little bit more diplomatic in how they approach it. And again, you get the 15-minute cooling off period after a game, your emotions are still high.
Oh, yeah.
And somebody rolls a question out like that, man, and, it's like pulling the pin on a hand grenade, man. Here we go. So I understand both sides, but that's the intensity of what college football is all about. And you see it in the NFL, too.
Yes, you do.
I watched coach from Miami yesterday. Mike McDaniel. Oh, man.
He's dealing with a tough situation.
Tough is an understatement. I mean, I was watching him and I was like, can somebody get him? Can somebody intervene? Because he was just all over the place. I was like, my goodness.
Yeah, that's a guy whose plan's not working out. And he doesn't know how to pivot.
Not. And he assumed a lot of responsibility of not maybe being as detailed as they need to be. I think when you talk about detail, you better qualify the players you have.
Yeah.
It's one of the things I gave Belichick credit for. Belichick's teams always had probably the highest collection of college graduates.
Yeah. So
he had a group of individuals who at least went to class. And if you went to class, maybe you're a better listener. You could retain things. You had better understanding of attention to detail. And that's why Belichick was able to coach guys who, if you look around, he didn't coach that many Hall of Famers. I mean, he wasn't saddled with this elite group of players, but he made them better as a unit in the NFL. Now, the draft eventually caught up to him. When you draft last or next to last so many years and you miss, then all of a sudden, I don't care who you are coaching-wise, you just don't have the personnel that can immediately impact your team. So in that case, that's what happens. But I think overall, man, when you're coaching these days, you better find some guys who know how to go to class and either simplify it or demand accountability.
Ooh, I like that.
And now here's a question though. I ask coaches this all the time. How do you get accountability these days? Because in my era, maybe yours, he just blow the whistle. You just start running to get your attention.
Yeah.
Now, we can't run them because we didn't want to lose their legs. Well, pardon me, all the hell. I'm sorry. I'm sorry you're tired. You know why you're tired? Because you're not in shape. You know why you're not in shape? Because you're making too many mental mistakes.
There's undoubtedly
and then if you don't play him, then he leaves.
Yeah, we've gone to everyone's healthier now as athletes. They're healthier. They're more highly tuned than ever.
That.
But
we say that.
Why can't they go as hard as they did without? Because here's the thing: there's got to be a middle ground, which is I understand that we don't want them to go as hard as they did in the 70s, 80s, because that was a detrimental health point. But we have gone so far to the point where again, pitchers in baseball, pitchers can't go deeper than 6 innings ever. No one throws complete games anymore. To the point where technology has to be good enough and medical science has to be good enough where there's a middle ground of we're not hurting these guys for their future livelihoods, but we're also not handicapping our sport by doing too much, to the point where in the NBA, it was like, I understood when Greg Popovich is sitting Tim Duncan and Manu Ginobili and Tony Parker when they're 40 years old and they're still a good team.
Yeah,
but it now has
35 minutes a night. Yeah.
But it now has avalanched into a 25-year-old saying, well, I just played 3 back-to-backs. You want me to play another back-to-back? Yeah, you're 25. Of course I want you to play another back-to-back.
Oh, if he was in shape, you wouldn't have this issue.
Exactly. And so there is.
So the conditioning element, they leave it up to the player now compared to, having some legitimate conditioning programs. So as a coach, either you take his playing time away from him. That doesn't help anybody.
No.
You run him, you make him stay after practice or before practice and run. He's going to quit.
Yeah, he's going to ask for a trade.
He's not putting the effort in. So I'm not sure what that button is now to get everyone's attention, to get them focused, because I see more mental mistakes in the first 2 weeks of the NFL season than I have all year. I mean, last year or so. College is the same way. Look at the kid in Pittsburgh who didn't know the rules on the kickoff.
Or to your
Last
point,
time
we
I
were
saw
talking.
that, Dwight Stone, who played for the Steelers,
I
did
remember
the
him,
same thing. He let it roll in the end zone. They pounced on
Cut
him.
his ass?
Well, no, he was too fast to cut.
Okay, fair enough.
That Dwight Stone at that point was one of the fastest guys.
Okay, fair enough.
So we're gonna give you another chance. Now, this rookie, you feel for him, and you probably throw him back out there.
Yeah.
I mean, cutting guys for the wrong reason. Now this guy that tackled for the Giants. Now
I was going to say
he would be gainfully unemployed today.
I mean, listen, he's an old school player. He was watching some 1950s
you
tape.
can't get 4 penalties on one series, man.
I mean, the 1960s head slap on the block was
Yeah.
ridiculous,
Hey,
but then two
Deacon
false
Jones,
starts.
Calm down, okay? Calm
That's
down,
amazing.
Deacon. If Deacon doesn't do
can't
it
do
anymore,
a
you
head
can't
slap.
do it either. But you know what I would have said? I would have taken him out, and as a position coach or a head coach, I said, you need to sit this series out and pull it together.
Yeah.
And then apparently he lost his.
He crashed out.
So
completely lost
who
it.
Who knows what led up to that? But I think you, as a coach, you have to be able to send the subtle messages. It starts with position coach, and then you're the head coach, so he needs to hear from you also, because you don't want to lose a guy for the game and maybe for his career. But I thought his actions on the sideline can't have it.
You know what my guess is that because Andrew Thomas has been hurt and he's coming back. My guess is because it's like Jameis Winston was like consoling him and things like that. My guess is that they were telling him like, hey, listen, we had a bad week on the offensive line. We need you to step up. Andrew's coming back. We need you to, if you have a big game, we'll give you a shot at the right tackle spot if he comes back. And he was probably like, all I was doing was trying to give it my all. And now they're holding it back.
Yeah.
And it's like, I feel like, because like the crash out is like, seemed like a guy who was like, coach, I'm just playing hard like you told me to. You wanted intensity.
I don't make deals with players for the next week.
No,
You play this week and we'll see what happens. But I think it sends the wrong message. Now, if he apologizes to the team before they leave Dallas, maybe there's some room where you can kind of figure it out. Maybe I run his ass for a few extra gases on the field. Maybe that's what happens here. But you have to do something to get the team's attention, because if you let that go, now you got bigger problems. And the one thing you can't afford to do is lose your team this early, because they watch and see how you discipline people and what you say to people. Because if they feel like if you're going to let that slide, then, I'm going to do what I want to do. So you can't have it.
You talk about the coaches losing their team early. One thing you can't also have is your quarterback losing his team early. And we've seen both in college football and at the pro level some very questionable quarterback play. Looking at the college level, coming into the year, DJ Lagway, Arch Manning, Nussmeier, and Lenora Sellers were all supposed to be pretty big quarterbacks in the SEC. And all four of them, Nussmeier's gotten the wins, but he's had some rough moments for LSU. Lagway, again, just had 5 interceptions for the second bad week in a row for Florida. Arch Manning continues to struggle.
He's going to get Napier fired.
Lagway? Oh, yeah, absolutely is. 100%. And then now Lenora Sellers has a bad game, gets knocked out with a head injury. And you already talked about Tua. The Jaguars are having problems. I mean, the quarterback play is not great these couple weeks.
Why? Because, you're not in quarterback shape yet. You just been used to playing down and out.
Yeah.
You haven't had to step up in the pocket. You haven't had to get chased. You haven't had any contact. Your receivers get off the line easy. So you have to deal with those things, and they're still trying to figure it out. And now they're showing you real coverages now.
Yes.
Okay. So this isn't like when you're playing against your teammates and you're just seeing some regular basic coverage. Now they're getting a little bit more dynamic with things, and sometimes you just don't pick it up as quick as you need to. And it's that one split second, man, where that guy steps up instead of him thinking he's supposed to drop back. It's a whole new ball game. And then it's one of those situations where as you're throwing, you realize, I really don't want to throw. So you don't have the conviction. You're not convicted of throwing it. And now all of a sudden it's a half-ass throw. And those are the ones that get you in trouble. So there's a lot of things that, again, I go back to the whole practice scenario. You got to be better at making more of a commitment. And I'm sure when they face the twos in practice, they're showing them their defense, but I always felt in that situation, my twos defense is not going to be as good as their ones.
Yeah, no.
So I would always think, why not put an extra guy on the field just to create a little bit more chaos? And what do you do?
I like that idea.
You
I
know?
really like that idea. And I've always thought with that one, like you as the cornerback know the route, but in your head you're like, I can't cheat it. So it's like I always feel like those guys too. It's like, are they even giving you like a good facsimile of what the defender's going to do? Because again, they know that they know the play call
every day.
They know it's going to be a bang 8. It's like I can undercut it, but like I have to stay off it, or else the defensive coach will be like, I don't want you cheating that. Yeah. And so like it's like, are you even getting a good rep?
Not to mention tackling drills.
Yes. Oh God, that's a huge issue. It's I mean, even the crazy thing is even when there's like a guy gets like a big hit in the NFL, they're like, oh, what a great tackle. I'm like, he did not even try to wrap up. That was a terrible tackle.
Now that we buried the NFL and the college game, what are some of the games on the schedule this week, Matt? Because we're gluttons for punishment and watching the game.
I can't get enough of it. I can't get enough.
Last night, the Minnesota Atlanta game didn't do a lot for me.
Yeah, I had a lot of hope for some fun from JJ McCarthy.
Bet the games, and I'm not a fantasy player anymore, so I just watch it just for fun. And it's funny because I can always tell people who do various shows. I can tell who's betting. Yeah. I was talking to somebody recently who does a radio show with two other people. That would be a
fun show in itself.
And they said, "What do you think of the show?" I said, "Well, I know how you feel about it. The other guy used to play, and the other guy damn sure was betting game. I could the way his passion. So, and I get it. Everybody has some fun with this,
right?
But it is. I think the only sport where we take it that serious. I mean, you have rotisserie baseball. He's on my rotisserie. Okay, that's good.
Intense.
I'm sure somebody's got a fancy hockey team somewhere.
Yes, people do. Trust me.
But it's something about the NFL, and the NFL is smart enough where they give you a drag at the bottom of the screen on how your players are doing, the ones they think you're going to be all in on so you can keep track and stay on top of the game. So it comes with it. It is what it is. We have to roll with it. But it's one of those deals where we're missing the connection on how to get players back on board. And coaches, you can only trick them up for so much and even it didn't work for Bill Belichick at one point. I mean, he was as good as it was. The threat of intimidation, I'm not sure it has the same impact that it used to. You're trying to be a guy's buddy just to get him to make a block or run a route, right? Or if you don't have a relationship with your quarterback, how can you win? Look, man, I'm calling the play. You run them, okay? And if you don't want to run, we'll find somebody else. I mean, it's like the Dallas Cowboy documentary, the Troy and Barry Switzer relationship. That was more, I felt, Troy didn't feel like Barry made people accountable compared to them having a philosophical difference with regard to the offense. Because who was a quarterback coach?
Oh, I'm blanking on the name right now.
Coaching the league for a while. Anyway, they had the relationship on what are you seeing? What are you feeling? Here's what we see. Let's see if we can work on that. Those are the sort of things you look at. But the head coach doesn't have much to do with that.
That's fair. We got a chat here from Mason Windu who says, Mike, do you think the Chiefs are in trouble this season? A lot of Pat Mahomes looks mortal comments after
because he doesn't have any help.
Yes.
I mean, the offensive line's trying to figure some things out. Receiving core isn't there, and they don't really have a running game. And so when you don't have those three things working for you, it's kind of hard to beat anybody, let alone the Eagles.
Did you see the preseason or the pregame issues from the Chiefs?
No, I didn't.
So multiple Chiefs players were wearing free 4 shirts with pictures of Rashee Rice on them. And that just seems like the guy, we know what he did. He wasn't taking his grandma to church that Sunday.
Yeah.
He was screwing around. He broke the law. He hurt people.
Look, if it comes down to you having you got bigger issues, man. This guy was not a savior.
No.
Okay. And that's the problem. They have some cap issues they had to figure out.
Yeah, you're always going to when you're winning.
And remember when you drafted the end of the first round, you might as well be drafting the second round. It was going to take more time to develop. So they have some issues they have to address. I think there is a little concern. There should be, because they said, well, Well, who's coming back?
Who's the question?
Yeah, I mean, my point is, well, who's hurt that much that makes that much of a difference?
I don't think Xavier Worthy's going to make that much of a difference.
I mean, he's fast,
but the offensive line's not going to get
but
better.
the offensive line is not going to get better. I mean, I know you drafted in that position, but that's going to take time for somebody to grow in that spot. So, you got a couple of teams. You know, you don't think they're worried about themselves in Cincinnati right now?
Well, I was going to say, do they trade for a quarterback? Browning's played well every time that Burrow's gone down, and Burrow's gone down multiple times in the last couple of years for Browning to get a look. But you have, two of the highest paid receivers in the entire league.
You have to get the ball to him. But so here's a question though. I think the bigger concern is you better find a running game to take the heat off this kid and give him the chance to throw. Because if you think you can box up their running game and then double on the receivers, and then, you got a bigger issue to deal with as far as a quarterback recognizing coverages. So I'm going to go the opposite direction. I'm going to get him the ball, but I'm going to make sure this running game buys him more time.
Yeah, and I'm a big fan of the Fighting Illini, but Brown's a really good running back, but I don't know if he's I don't know if they have enough of the running game to really make things happen. They got to make a move for maybe a quarterback with just a bigger arm to maybe make some of that play out. Jameis Winston's sitting there in New York.
He does have a big arm.
He can just gun it to Jamar and Higgins all day long.
Like that, yeah.
I saw. I think it was Big Cat over at Barstool Sports who threw out because they love Jameis Winston, so that was their first thought process. And I was like, you know what? I don't completely hate that.
No, he has a big arm. I mean, he can make it interesting for somebody. So, man, this guy. Yeah, I got news for you. There's some guys in Cincinnati trying out right now. So here's a question: what's Cincinnati's cap number?
Oh, that's a good question. Yeah,
could they afford Winston? Well, they can. They can cut somebody.
You can always figure something out in the NFL with the cap. I mean, there's some. Yeah, they got about $11 million in cap space. They're fine. But then again, but at the same time, it is Cincinnati. Do they want to spend? Do they want to spend towards the cap? Because unfortunately, we still live in a world where there's owners who that's an actual real question we have to ask about things, which is the truth, but absolutely insane.
When you see owners who aren't billionaires these days, it's kind of hard for them to pull the trigger.
I'd get worried if I was a fan.
Yeah, but I mean, there's only so much a fan can do. I mean, you buy the tickets, you do everything you can do from that respect, but they run like a business. Yep. And I understand the game has changed from when the Brown family first got involved in the NFL, and they don't have another business. Jerry Jones owns a bunch of other things, and you look at some of these other owners, they own a bunch of things.
Yeah.
The Brown family owns the Cincinnati Bengals. That's it.
It's the issue with the Raiders as well. It's just what does Mark Davis got? He's got the Raiders.
Yeah. And it's not worth anything to him until he sells it. So he has to run like a business.
And and that's the thing is I understand why when it bothers fans, but you can't blame teams when they run it like that.
No, you can't.
Monday Night Football tonight, we have a doubleheader, Buccaneers and Texans, Chargers and Raiders. As we're talking about the Chiefs, obviously Chargers and Raiders, I think it's going to be a fun one. I'm all about the Chargers. Lad McConkey, Justin Herbert. They finally got an offensive tackle in Joe Alt.
And then they picked up Mekhi Becton and moved him inside.
Yeah, I picked up him because obviously they did lose Rashawn Slater this year, which was a big bummer. But I like what the Chargers are doing.
I'm waiting to see what Najee Harris does.
Okay.
Because, we knew him as a dynamic runner in Alabama. It just didn't work in Pittsburgh. But if they can get him going, and if he can stay away from the fireworks, I think we'll have something special there. Because I think they have the other weapons in place. Defensively, they make plays. Khalil Mack can still play a little bit.
God, I love Khalil Mack.
And I just always remember when Gruden got rid of him. You got to be kidding. That's when things went downhill right there. But, it should be a good game. I think we'll see some points scored. Geno Smith has kind of found his way again. So I'm looking forward to that game. And the other game is Tampa and who are we playing Tampa?
The Texans. Good old CJ Stroud.
Yeah.
Wilson's got the jersey on.
That should be fun.
I honestly, the Buccaneers were always like my secondary team. And so I enjoy running with them. They're clearly not in the same.
You're a Buccaneer fan of the Steve The Berg era?
No. So
okay.
it came around for me. I always explained that in 1999, the Rams taught me about offensive football. And then across 2000, and then more so in 2002, I learned about defensive football from the Ravens and the Buccaneers. And I really, truly fell in love with that Buccaneers team. Derek Brooks is one of my is my top 5 favorite player in NFL history. That entire defense, I loved that entire defense. Simeon Rice, Booger McFarland.
Simeon Rice, Hall of Famer.
I think probably, yeah. I mean, he's one of those guys that had that
guys
level.
That could block him one-on-one.
My thing, here's the thing about Simeon Rice is pass rushers then were going up against, in my opinion, just a better group of offensive tackles.
I agree.
And so when Simeon Rice does what Simeon Rice does, when Dwight Freeney, when Robert Mathis are doing what they're doing, it like anything like pre 2013, it's like not only what was offensive line play overall in the NFL better, but then you were still running with an NFL that had Levi Jones, Jonathan Ogden, Orlando Pace, Willie Roaf had already retired, but he had been there in the early 2000s. Walter Jones. Walter Jones as well. You had Willie Anderson, one of the best right tackles ever in Cincinnati. So I mean, the tackle levels you had back then, unbelievable. So yeah, for me, Simeon Rice is a Hall of Famer.
Those guys weren't Tubba Lards.
No,
okay, they had good footwork, good long arms, could run block too.
Yes.
See, now they just teach a guy to pass block, and that's why I have to run inside the tackles instead of around the tackle. So, game changes. I mean, 5 years from now, we'll see some athletic tackles.
I mean, right now, Tristan Wirfs I love Tristan Wirfs. Ohio guys,
yeah.
Iowa guys are money. Yeah. Really can't screw that one up.
I'll take an Ohio State tackle any day.
Oh, any day of the week. Yeah.
When I go back to John Hicks and what he did there, and then you had Orlando Pace, and you've had a few others that have come through there and have done a really nice job. But there's certain programs that can develop certain players, and I would just say the Big Ten does a really good job of developing tackles.
Yeah. It's still old school football there. Wisconsin, Ohio State, Michigan, Iowa. Give me an offensive tackle from one of those 4 programs. I'm feeling good about
with
myself.
The NFC. The NFC used to always have the best offensive line because somebody had to block Taylor every Saturday. So they would first division really. They used to have the tight end try and chip him. And because and then they had to invest in athletic tackles just to slow Taylor down. You weren't going to stop him, but if you could give your quarterback an extra step or two, maybe you can get rid of it. Yeah. But that's when they used to put the tight end on that side. Wherever side Taylor was on, they moved the tight end there, so at least he'd have a chance. And it's amazing how those trends continue over the course of the years, because that's when you look back at the NFL on the NFC East, every team had a really good running game. Whether it was Eagles with Wilbur Montgomery or John Riggins with the Redskins, the Cardinals had Otis Anderson, Dallas had Tony Dorsett. They all had good players that could run the ball because they used that tight end to block next to that tackle. So
did teams ever think, or was it like week 3 of his rookie year where teams was like, oh, this whole running back thing ain't gonna work against this New York linebacker? Was there ever mind, or did people know out of the gate?
Well,
we got to block this guy?
When running backs started putting on a different kind of face masks because they didn't want to get hit. I mean, listen, this guy.
I love hearing Lawrence Taylor stories.
I just don't know how I could describe him, the impact he had. He was truly a one-man wrecking crew. He changed defenses, and it didn't hurt that he had some other good players on that team too.
Oh yeah,
I mean, there were some really good players. Parcells and Belichick kind of figured out how to use them, and they let him freelance to a point. But if they were upset with him, they wouldn't yell at him. They yell at somebody next to him, and just to make sure that you don't yell at Lawrence Taylor. No. But he was fascinating, man. I mean, just the plays he could make. Remember one year in a Thanksgiving Day game, he stepped in front of a pass and returned for a touchdown. And you never seen a guy run that fast as a linebacker. And I never forget him saying, he said, I saw a shadow. I thought it was a guy chasing me. No, it was your own shadow.
Oh my God.
Because he was indoors and he thought somebody was chasing him. He was like close. A secretariat at the Belmont State. But he was such a fascinating player that I put him down. We talk about greatest defensive player. I think you really have to put it, when you talk about greatest, we have to look at positions because they say Jim Brown's the greatest football player. Yeah, he's the greatest running back ever. Yeah. But Jim Brown never played left guard. Yeah. And I'm sure I could find a left guard that could do a better job of blocking than Jim Brown. So I look at it that way, where I look at positions and say, this guy was a really good
That's a good
player.
way to do it. That's a good way to do it. Claibs, thank you so much for joining us today, stepping in for Randy Carricker. Before we go, though, we've been telling people down on the bottom of the screen, but tell us a little bit about our good friends at Painting and Decorating Foundation.
Painting and Decorating Council here in St. Louis, they do a phenomenal job. You know, a lot of times people think about what their next career should look like, and maybe they think about college, and maybe they think about something else. But I think if you explore the Painting and Decorating Council, and if you see how that program works, and it's just like going to college, but you're learning a legitimate trade that you can take anywhere in the world. The money's very good. A lot of people come out of there making more money than a college graduate. It's very popular in St. Louis. A lot of people try and get in. They are selective with regard to who comes in because they want to make sure they have the right people doing the right job. So if you're interested, just go to paintinganddecoratingcouncil.com and you will see for yourself all the things they're able to do. One of my favorite group of people to work with. And I've seen what they've been able to do. And I think if you see it for yourself, you'll agree with me that's not a bad option.
There it is. That's Mike Claiborne stepping in for Randy Carricker today. Randy Carricker will be back tomorrow. We'll have Brendan Schaefer also co-hosting this week, and we'll have a special guest co-host on Friday. I'm out this week, heading out of town on Thursday and Friday, so we got to get some new bodies in here, and maybe it's a new old body getting here on Friday as well. Yes, well, you know what I'm saying. Okay. You know what I'm saying. Right. An old friend returns to the studio on Friday. We're excited to hit you guys with that surprise. For Mike Claiborne, I'm Matthew Rocchio. Make sure to check out our friends at DraftKings Sportsbook. December 1st is when the app drops in Missouri. Get in right now. Get that $5 bet in. They'll get you $300 in bonus bets when they launch on December 1st. That's our friends at DraftKings Sportsbook, where the crown is yours. For Mike Claiborne, I'm Matthew Rocchio. This is STL Sports Central. Coming up soon at 1 p.m. It's going to be Cardinals 365. And then, of course, always make sure you like, subscribe, and share. That way, whenever we do a post-game show, you know when we are going. This has been the Randy Carricker Show featuring Brooke Grimsley on STL Sports Central, brought to you by DraftKings Sportsbook. Have a great rest of your day, St. Louis.